Chosen one, listen closely. What you are about to hear is not a coincidence, not a random video that appeared on your screen by accident. This is a divine interruption. Heaven does not knock on an ordinary heart without reason, and if these words have found you tonight, it is because something you have been carrying in silence is about to be answered. Within the last few hours, the one who broke your trust, the partner who looked you in the eyes and lied, the one who cheated on you while pretending to love you, received their answer, not from you, not from a courtroom, not from a friend who finally told the truth, from God Himself. And what happened to them in secret is now being revealed to you, because you were never meant to carry this pain without understanding why it happened, and without watching it come full circle. Do not close this message. Do not scroll away, because what is about to be uncovered will explain the nights you couldn't sleep, the questions that never got honest answers, and the ache that stayed even after you tried to move on. This is not about revenge. This is about truth. And the truth, chosen one, has already begun to move. For a long time you told yourself it was your imagination. The late replies. The phone turned face down every single time it buzzed. The sudden showers after a normal day at work. The distance that crept in slowly, disguised as stress, disguised as being tired, disguised as everything except what it actually was. You forgave 100 small things because you loved a person more than you doubted them. You built a life around someone who was quietly building an exit, and the cruelest part was not the betrayal itself. The cruelest part was watching them come home every night and act like nothing had changed, while something inside you kept whispering that it had. God saw every one of those nights. Heaven counted every excuse you accepted because your heart wanted to believe the best about someone who no longer deserved that grace. And none of it, chosen one, none of it went unnoticed. Before we go further into what happened to them in these last few hours, I want you to do something. If you feel in your spirit that this message is for you, comment 777 below, right now, as a declaration that you receive this word. Like this video so that it reaches someone else who is sitting in the same silence you once sat in. Subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to share with you next goes even deeper than what you already know, and you do not want to miss what heaven reveals in the coming days. This is only the beginning of what is being uncovered tonight. To understand the answer they just received, we have to go back to where the betrayal actually began. It never begins with the affair itself. It never begins with the lie that finally breaks everything apart. It begins in small, quiet compromises a person makes with their own conscience long before another person ever enters the picture. First comes the entertaining of a thought that should have been dismissed the moment it appeared. A little attention from someone new feels harmless because it costs nothing yet. Then comes the secrecy. Small at first, a conversation not mentioned, a name left out of a story, a phone kept a little closer than usual. Secrecy is where innocence quietly dies, because the moment something needs to be hidden, some part of the person already knows it is wrong. Then comes the justification, the quiet lies people tell themselves to keep functioning inside a double life. They tell themselves you would never understand. They tell themselves you have changed, that you stopped trying, that this new attention is simply filling a gap you left empty, even while you were still showing up every single day, unaware that the story was already being rewritten without you. Your partner did not fall into betrayal. They walked into it, one small decision at a time, telling themselves each step was harmless until the steps became a path, and the path became a life they were living behind your back. What started as a conversation became a friendship. What started as a friendship became a secret. What started as a secret became a second life, hidden inside the one they shared with you, running quietly underneath every dinner, every holiday, every ordinary Tuesday you spent believing you were building something together while they were slowly building an escape route. And here is what they did not understand. Every hidden thing eventually becomes visible. Every secret conversation, every disguised meeting, every carefully deleted message, all of it was being recorded somewhere heaven never loses. They believed that because you did not see it, it was not happening. They believed that because you trusted them, you would never look closely enough to catch them. And for a season they were right. You did trust them. That trust was not weakness. Chosen one. That trust was the evidence of a good heart being tested by someone who did not deserve to hold it. But heaven was already watching, already recording, already preparing the moment when everything hidden would be pulled into the light, on a timeline you could not control and they could not escape.
You remember the nights, don't you? Lying awake staring at the ceiling, running through conversations, trying to find the exact sentence where things changed. You remember checking your phone one more time even though you told yourself you wouldn't, hoping for a message that made sense of the confusion in your chest. You remember smiling through dinners, through holidays, through ordinary Tuesday evenings, while something underneath your smile kept asking questions you were too afraid to say out loud. That version of you was not paranoid. That version of you was not needy or dramatic or overthinking things the way you were made to believe. That version of you was simply a person whose spirit could sense a truth that had not yet been given permission to surface. And heaven saw every single one of those nights. Heaven did not sleep through your questions the way the person beside you slept through your pain. Tell me something. Have you ever felt deep in your spirit, long before you had any proof, that something was wrong? A feeling you couldn't explain. A heaviness that sat in your chest even on ordinary days, a quiet unease that showed up in rooms that used to feel safe. That feeling was not paranoia. That was discernment, planted in you by God, trying to prepare you for what your eyes had not yet seen. If you have felt that, comment "I receive this" below, and ask yourself honestly, do you believe God reveals truth before it fully arrives, the same way He is revealing it to you right now? The affair did not stay hidden forever, because nothing built on deception ever does. It began to crack in small places first. There was a message that arrived at exactly the wrong moment, a notification that lit up a screen that was supposed to stay dark, a single sentence that did not match anything you had been told. There was a story that no longer added up, details that shifted slightly every time it was repeated, a timeline that had one too many gaps for coincidence to explain away. And there was a third person. Someone who had known the truth for weeks or even months. Someone who had carried a secret that was never theirs to carry, growing more uneasy with every day that passed, until the weight of staying silent became heavier than the fear of speaking up. Guilt is a heavy thing to hide, and even the most practiced liar eventually grows tired of performing a life they do not actually believe in. Somewhere in the middle of their double life, your partner started losing sleep too, though for very different reasons than you did. You lost sleep wondering what was wrong. They lost sleep knowing exactly what was wrong and dreading the moment it would finally surface. That is the weight sin carries even when no one else can see it. It does not announce itself immediately, but it never stops working underneath the surface, wearing down the person who built their happiness on someone else's pain. There is a question I know has crossed your mind more than once, even if you have never said it out loud. You have wondered what the other person had that you didn't. You have replayed your own reflection in the mirror, searching for a flaw big enough to explain why someone chose to throw away everything you built together. Chosen one, stop searching for that answer, because it does not exist. There was nothing missing in you that pushed them towards someone else. What is missing is inside them, a hollow place they have been trying to fill for longer than you have known them, a hollow place no new person will ever be able to fill either, because the emptiness was never about who was standing in front of them. It was about what was broken within. You cannot outcompete a wound that has nothing to do with you. You were never in competition to begin with. You were simply standing faithfully in a place that required someone equally faithful standing beside you, and they were not that person. That is not a reflection of your beauty, your intelligence, your loyalty, or your worth. It is a reflection of their capacity, and their capacity was never large enough to hold what you were offering. If you feel like this video is getting long, I need you to stay with me right here, because the next part is the entire reason this message was sent to you tonight. Everything you have heard so far was only the setup. What comes next is the answer. Within the last few hours, chosen one, the answer arrived, not with fire from the sky, not with a dramatic public exposure orchestrated for an audience. It arrived the way heaven usually moves, quietly, precisely, and completely. The truth they had buried for months finally reached the one person they could not control, could not manipulate, and could not lie to anymore. Maybe it was a conversation they never saw coming. Maybe it was a piece of evidence surfacing at the exact moment they thought they were finally safe. Maybe it was simply the weight of their own conscience becoming too heavy to keep pretending everything was fine. However it happened, this is what matters. What they built in darkness could not survive being brought into the light, and the version of themselves they had been protecting,
the confident, careless, untouchable version, collapsed the moment truth stood in front of them. Picture it for a moment. Not to relive your pain, but to understand how completely this has already turned. Somewhere, in an ordinary room, on an ordinary evening, the confidence they had been wearing like armor for months finally cracked. A question they could not answer smoothly. A silence that lasted a few seconds too long. A look on someone else's face that told them the performance was over. There was no more room to redirect the conversation. No clever explanation left to reach for. No more time to buy. The story they had constructed so carefully, piece by piece, over weeks and months, came apart in a matter of minutes, because truth does not need very long once it finally arrives. It only needs a door left open, even a crack, and heaven has a way of finding exactly that crack at exactly the right time. And here is the part most people never think about. Even the new life they were chasing, the one they believed would finally make them happy, was never able to stand on the foundation they built it on. Something built on a lie cannot hold the same weight as something built on truth, no matter how good it feels in the beginning. The excitement fades the same way it always fades, and what is left underneath it is the same person, still avoiding honesty, still running from accountability, still unable to give anyone real trust, because they never learned how to be trustworthy themselves. What felt like an escape from you slowly becomes its own prison, because a person who is capable of hiding a double life once will always carry the fear of being hidden from again. They are learning now, in real time, what it costs to build something on a lie. Trust, once broken publicly, does not rebuild itself quickly, and the people around them, the ones who now know exactly what they are capable of, will carry that knowledge into every future interaction. Whispered conversations, careful distance, a reputation that no longer opens doors the way it used to. None of that is your responsibility to orchestrate or even to witness. It is simply the natural weight of a choice finally landing where it was always going to land. And you, chosen one, are being spared from watching a future collapse that was never meant to be yours to carry. You get to walk away from the wreckage instead of living inside it. That is not a small mercy. That is heaven protecting you from a future you were never supposed to inherit. Stay with me, because this is the part I need you to understand fully before we go any further, and it changes how you see everything that has happened to you. The answer they received was never designed to destroy them for the sake of destruction. It was designed to break the illusion they were hiding behind, so that everyone still standing inside that illusion, including you, could finally see clearly. Scripture teaches that whatever a person plants, that is exactly what they will eventually harvest. And no one is exempt from that law, no matter how long they manage to hide from it. Your partner planted secrecy, and secrecy always grows into exposure eventually. They planted deception, and deception always collapses under its own weight the moment truth applies enough pressure. This is not cruelty from heaven. This is order. This is the universe insisting that what is true cannot be buried forever, no matter how skilled the person burying it becomes. If this is resonating with you right now, comment 777 again, because I want to know how many of you are watching this and feeling like heaven just answered a question you have been carrying for months, maybe years. Share this with someone you know who is still waiting for their own truth to surface, because they need to hear that waiting is not the same as being forgotten. Now let's talk about what this means for you, because this message was never only about them. It was about you, and about the life waiting for you on the other side of this pain. For a long time you may have asked yourself what was wrong with you. Why weren't you enough? Why didn't they choose honesty when honesty was sitting right in front of them every single day, in the shape of your loyalty? Chosen one, hear this clearly. Their betrayal was never a measurement of your worth. It was a revelation of their character. A person does not cheat because their partner failed to be enough. A person cheats because something broken inside them refused to be honest, refused to communicate, refused to do the difficult work of staying faithful when staying faithful required discipline instead of convenience. You did not cause that brokenness. You were simply standing close enough to be wounded by it. Broken people often choose the easiest path available to them, and honesty is rarely the easiest path in a moment of temptation. It requires facing yourself, admitting dissatisfaction out loud, risking a difficult conversation instead of a comfortable secret. Betrayal is almost always the coward's shortcut around a conversation that should have happened months earlier. Your partner did not lack the words to tell you they were unhappy, confused, or tempted.
They lacked the courage, and courage is not something you were ever responsible for building inside another adult.
That was always their work to do, and their failure to do it says everything about them and nothing about you. There is a kind of pain, chosen one, that does not exist to punish you.
It exists to wake something up inside you that had been sleeping for far too long. The ache you carried through this betrayal was never wasted.
It was doing something underneath the surface, the same way pressure works on something valuable, refining it, revealing what it is truly made of.
Even great thinkers who spent their lives studying suffering understood that pain has a strange way of getting our attention when comfort never could. It interrupts the noise. It forces us to ask real questions instead of comfortable ones. It strips away every illusion we were leaning on and leaves only what is real. And in that interruption, something in you has been quietly rebuilding, becoming steadier, becoming wiser, becoming someone who will never again mistake performance for love or convenience for commitment. That same thinking reminds us that love was never meant to be safe in the way we imagine safety. To love someone fully is to hand them the power to wound you, and the risk of that wound is not a flaw in love. It is the price of it being real. Your heart was not foolish for loving deeply. It was doing exactly what love requires. The fault was never in your loving. The fault was entirely in how that love was received and dishonored. Let me ask you honestly, and answer me in the comments if this is true for you. Do you feel, even now in the middle of the pain, that you are somehow becoming stronger than you were before all of this happened? That the version of you walking out of this season is not weaker, but wiser, not broken, but refined? If that is true for you,
type "I am rising" in the comments right now, because I believe declarations carry weight. And I believe heaven honors the words we choose to speak over our own lives. Here is what I need you to understand about forgiveness, because this is where many people get stuck. Releasing bitterness does not mean pretending you were not wronged.
It does not mean welcoming them back into your life, and it does not mean minimizing what they did to protect their comfort or anyone else's comfort.
Forgiveness is not for them. It is for you. Holding on to bitterness does not punish the person who hurt you. It only keeps you tied to the very moment you're trying to heal from, replaying it,
reliving it, letting it define seasons of your life that were always meant to move forward. Letting go is not saying what happened was acceptable. It is saying you refuse to let their choice control your future the way it controlled these last difficult months. You can forgive and still keep the door closed. You can release the bitterness and still protect your peace.
Forgiveness and boundaries are not opposites, chosen one. They are partners, and you are allowed to hold both at the same time. The consequences they are facing right now are not something you have to manage or witness up close. Heaven is handling the justice.
Your only assignment now is healing.
And healing, chosen one, does not happen overnight, but it does happen. It happens in the mornings you choose to get out of bed, even when the weight feels heavier than you can carry. It happens the first time you laugh again without guilt creeping in behind it,
as if joy itself were something you were no longer allowed to feel.
It happens the day you realize you went an entire afternoon without thinking about them at all, and instead of feeling numb, you feel free. It happens quietly, in the ordinary moments nobody applauds, the meal you finally cook for yourself again,
the song you can listen to without flinching,
the friend you finally called back after weeks of silence. Every one of those small moments is proof that what was broken in you is being rebuilt into something even stronger than what existed before. The version of you that existed before the betrayal trusted easily, sometimes too easily.
The version of you being formed now will trust wisely, love deeply, and never again mistake silence for peace or excuses for truth.
Healing also means learning to sit with silence without filling it with someone else's noise. In the beginning, silence feels unbearable after a betrayal, because silence is where every question lives,
every replay of the last conversation, every unanswered why.
But slowly, if you let it, silence becomes something else entirely. It becomes the space where you finally hear your own voice again, clear of their opinions, free of their manipulation, untangled from the version of yourself you shaped to keep them comfortable.
Many people rush that season. They fill it immediately with someone new, something new, anything to avoid sitting alone with what happened. But heaven is not in a hurry with your healing, and you should not be either. The strongest version of you is not built in a rebound. It is built in the quiet months where you finally remember who you were before you learned to shrink yourself for someone who never deserved that sacrifice. There will be days that still feel hard even after everything I have just told you, and I want you to know in advance that those days do not mean you are moving backward. Grief is not a straight line. Some mornings you will feel completely free, and by evening a memory will surface out of nowhere and knock the wind out of you again. That is not weakness. That is simply what healing from something real actually looks like. Give yourself permission to have both kinds of days, the strong ones and the heavy ones, without judging either of them. Heaven is not measuring your healing by how quickly you get over it. Heaven is measuring your healing by whether you keep choosing truth over bitterness, one imperfect day at a time. Before we move into the final part of this message, I want to remind you why this matters so much. Somewhere out there, someone else is sitting exactly where you once sat, wondering if the truth will ever surface, wondering if they are foolish for still believing in justice, still believing in love, still believing that heaven sees what other people refuse to see. Comment 7771 one more time if you believe that. Share this video with them. Let them know their season of waiting is closer to ending than they think, the same way yours was closer to ending than you ever imagined it would be. There is something else I want you to hear before we close, because this is the part that separates temporary relief from lasting peace. The answer your betrayer received was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new season for you. One built on truth instead of illusion. One built on discernment instead of blind trust. One built on a relationship with yourself that no longer depends on someone else's honesty to feel secure. You are being prepared for something better than what you had. Not because what you had was worthless, but because what is coming was never meant to grow in the same soil that betrayal poisoned. New seasons require new soil. Heaven is clearing yours right now, even in the middle of this pain, even while it still feels heavy some days. Think of it like a field that has to be cleared before anything new can be planted in it. It looks empty for a while. It looks like nothing is happening, but underneath the surface, the ground is being prepared, the old roots are being pulled up. The soil is being turned over so it can hold something healthier than what grew there before. That is exactly what this season is doing in your life right now, even on the days it feels like nothing good is happening at all. What feels like emptiness is actually preparation. What feels like silence is actually heaven working where you cannot yet see. I want you to speak this over your life with me now, out loud if you can, or quietly in your spirit if that is where you are today. I release the weight of what was done to me. I release the nights I spent questioning my worth because of someone else's dishonesty. I release the version of myself that stayed silent to keep peace with someone who never protected mine. I choose truth over comfortable lies. I choose healing over bitterness. I choose to trust that heaven sees every hidden thing and answers every hidden wound in its own perfect timing. What was done in secret against me has been brought into the light, and I will not carry shame for a betrayal that was never mine to carry. I am not defined by what they did. I am defined by how I rise after it. I forgive without forgetting the lesson. I release without reopening the door. I walk forward in peace. I walk forward in clarity. I walk forward into the life that was always meant for me, not the life that was stolen from me. Nothing hidden will remain hidden. Nothing done against me in the dark will follow me into my future. My worth was never determined by someone else's ability to be faithful. My value did not decrease because they chose poorly. This is my season to heal, to rise, and to become exactly who I was created to be, whole, discerning, and free. I will not shrink myself to make dishonesty comfortable ever again. I will not mistake attention for love or apology for change. I will guard my peace the way I once guarded a relationship that did not guard me back. I will trust again, in time, but I will trust with open eyes instead of closed ones. I will not let one person's betrayal convince me that everyone carries the same capacity for deception, because bitterness lies and tells us the whole world is untrustworthy when only one person failed to be. I choose to stay soft where it is safe to be soft, and strong where I need to be strong. I choose to believe that what heaven is building for me now is better than what was taken. Not a smaller version of my life, but a fuller one, rooted in truth from the very beginning this time. My future does not belong to the person who broke my trust. My future belongs to me,
and to the God who never once looked away while I was hurting.
If you received this message today, comment 7771 final time so that heaven and everyone watching knows you are standing in agreement with this truth. Like this video, not for me, but for the next person who needs to know that their pain has not gone unseen. Subscribe to this channel because there are more messages coming that will speak directly into the season you are walking through right now. Messages that will keep confirming what your spirit already senses is true. Share this with someone who needs to hear tonight that the truth always finds its way into the light, that justice does not require your hands to be fulfilled, and that the person who hurt you does not get the final word over your story. God does. And He has already begun writing the next chapter, the one where you are no longer defined by what was done to you, but by who you become because of how you chose to rise. Stay awake, stay open, and stay ready. Because the very thing that once broke you is about to become the very thing that sets you free.